Hello, Ingrid. Hello, Catherine. In 2011, you had a near-death experience while in the hospital with very severe hepatitis. If you would like to, please tell us about the circumstances and what happened. Yes, it was in December of 2011. I had hepatitis, so I was admitted to a hospital in Paris fairly quickly. They took blood samples, diagnosed me, and found that my condition was life-threatening. So I was quickly transferred to another hospital where I was admitted to intensive care fairly quickly as well. I definitely needed a liver transplant because my liver was very damaged. Very little was left, only about 17% of my liver. So at that point, my condition was critical, and it was in that room in intensive care that this experience happened. So I was lying in bed and I started to doze off a little bit. My eyes were closed. I think they must have thought I was asleep. And then I was suddenly sucked out through the top of my head. It was like a kind of well or a very powerful vortex, which pulled my soul out, or an energy, whatever is inside me, what animates me, and I found myself in a very white, bright tunnel. There I felt no pain. I couldn't feel my body either. There was no longer any sense of matter, of all the heaviness that we can experience or feel. It no longer existed. It was quite intense, quite powerful. I can't say it was violent, but it was very powerful. And all this light, which wasn't dazzling, but was very enveloping. And there was this idea of a very fast spiral. So I didn't know where I was going, but I didn't even think to ask myself that question. It didn't matter. So there I was, being sucked up very, very high or very deep. I can't say exactly. And suddenly I found myself in my hospital room above my bed. So I could see my body lying there. I could see the father of my children at the foot of the bed with the teacher, who was probably telling him that it was going to be difficult for me to survive. I could see that he was afraid, so I clung to his jacket so that he could see me. And I wanted to say, but I'm here, everything's okay. And I can see his brown leather jacket very clearly with the texture of its skin. There are some very surprising details, in fact, where I can almost see the history of the leather. You dive into the depths in those states, and at the same time, I feel like I'm a dot moving from right to left at the speed of thought. I look, I move. It's very, very fast. It's the same for everything in the room, all the equipment, everything becomes transparent. There's this idea of seeing things with our physical eyes. And then it's as if, well, I had another vision beyond that. I could see things that you can't see with your physical eyes. And so I could see through them. It was quite surprising to be able to see something other than what you think you see. So I know I was a little, well, I was going left and right, and I was sucked back into this tunnel. I left quickly, but without questioning, without saying to myself, I'm gone. I left it. Anyway, there are no questions like that. I'm leaving. I'm fine. I'm in unconditional love because in that tunnel, that's what I felt. Being loved for who I was. It's overwhelming, enveloping. It's a feeling you don't necessarily find here. We're not used to feeling so loved. with such intensity, I would say. So it was a moment of joy and happiness. Looking back, of course, because at the time, you're not really aware of what's happening. It's very fast. And then I came back into my body, and there I came back in through the place where I had left. I came back in, and the feeling I had was that my body was, even though I didn't have a body, but the energy, what I was made of at that moment, didn't fit inside. It was too small. I felt like I was a dot, but I felt like I had to go through a lot of things to get to my feet. And it clicked when I got to my feet, as if to say, really, it's okay, you're back. But at the same time, you're back, but there's something very tight. I really felt like I was bigger than I thought I was. And at the same time, everything was transparent because there was nothing visible. There is no matter. It's very strange to feel like you're squeezed into a place when there's no matter there, and that I was entering this body of matter. So after that, I woke up and found myself in this body and healed too. It was quite surprising. To them, I was a miracle at that moment. So that was the experience. That's how it happened. And then there was the aftermath, when I opened my eyes and found myself having what seemed like hallucinations. That's what I called them at first, hallucinations, in the sense that I saw a lot of dark things, and I realized that it was my fears materializing, but not in a physical way. With what I could perceive, everything was materializing. It was as if I was being handed a tray and told, here are all your fears. This is what they are. And everything was dark. But I wasn't even aware of these fears. I didn't even know I had fears, for that matter. In any case, there they were, clear and visible to me. I also had the ability to see through walls and hear. So I had a nurse who was there, and she was talking. I could hear her talking. Then I heard lots of other voices. There were lots of other sounds, as if I was tuned into several radios or TVs at the same time. Everything was confused in my head. And at one point, I said to this nurse, listen, I can hear you when you talk. You can speak more quietly. She was surprised because I could hear what she was saying to her colleague. I said, but you're talking to someone. You're talking loudly. But they were not in my room. And I heard her say to her colleague, the lady says she can hear us. And then I thought to myself, am I crazy or what? It's very difficult to come back with so much information that on one level, it's almost logical, let's say, but to bring it back into your mind, it was very difficult. And to be able to see through these walls, to be able to feel everything. In fact, there were things that no longer passed through my physical eyes, but surely what we now call third eye, where I had perceptions that were really beyond anything material. And this feeling was as if I was a little naked, I would say. All these vibrations, all this information that no longer entered through my ears, but entered through the inside of my body. I had a kind of vibrational knowledge. It was quite unsettling. I would say surprising with hindsight, but very unsettling at the same time. Thank you very much, Ingrid. And tell me, did it last? Did these perceptions start as soon as you opened your eyes? Did they last a long time? Yes, right away. It happened as soon as I opened my eyes. I found myself in this kind of space. with all these very hallucinatory sensations. You could say, I'm hallucinating. And no, it didn't stop actually. The thing is, it continued. The next day, or 2 days later, that's when I saw the being of light. But I didn't understand until 5 years later that it was a being of light. I had no idea what it was. I had never talked about it because it was very strange. I was lying in my hospital bed in broad daylight. It was daytime in the room. I had just come out of intensive care. A friend had come to visit me. Suddenly, I looked next to her and saw that she couldn't see what I was seeing. And I see this halo of light, which has no gender. I don't know if it's well, there's no concept of male or female. It's a halo of light that's there, very bright, but with such a powerful light that I wonder how the person who's there cannot see it. And this being of light says to me, from now on, I will guide your life. So I didn't really understand. And then I was still in such shock because I tried to talk about it to the professor who was supervising me. And he said, but you're very tired. Your brain is playing tricks on you. You must get some rest. Go to sleep. So I couldn't tell him that a light had appeared in front of me and said, I will guide your life. So I kept it to myself. I kept it to myself for a very long time. And I didn't even tell my therapist about it until 5 years later. I had no idea what it was. I had no idea what a being of light was. She was the one who brought it up. She told me that in experiences like that, you can usually encounter beings of light or deceased people. I hadn't encountered any deceased people, so for me, I hadn't had a near death experience. It wasn't that. I didn't know what this being of light was. And then I felt a little, well, there's also a bit of shame when you experience something like that because it's so, let us say, extraordinary that it's hard to talk about it. People look at you and say, no, that's not right. You need to see someone about that because it's not. Well, at the time, in 2011, I didn't have all these networks to get information from. And then the first person I turned to was my teacher, who said, well, you're very tired. It is fatigue, and your brain is playing tricks on you. So after that, you don't really dare mention it. So I stayed connected to that plan in the end until today. That's for sure. It lasted a long time, except that at the time, as there were a lot of things affecting me in the sense that they were quite dark, and as I didn't know how to deal with them, I only perceived people who had emotions such as pain, distress, sorrow, and anger. I was receiving that, so it was very disturbing. And all these voices I was hearing, they weren't even voices. They were vibrations that were telling me something. But I didn't have the decoder for that. So I also believed, for a while, that I was possessed or schizophrenic. Anyway, there was something that, because of the hospitalization, because of that illness, okay, they let me live, because they often said to me, but you're cured. Finally, I don't understand. How can you be depressed? Everything should be fine. You're out of the hospital. You've come a long way. You're a miracle. How can you be in this state? No one understood, not even me. But they couldn't imagine that I was actually living in a kind of darkness. I couldn't get out of all these visions, these emotions that people were sending me without realizing it. And I didn't have the tools to block them out. So I was on anti-anxiety medication for a while. I needed to sleep. I didn't want to be awake because I could sense things. So it was a long journey to realize what had happened to me and to be able to deal with it. When you say it was dark, there were no positive manifestations at first. It was just things, as you say, like people's fears and so on. Yes. And how did you manage that? I talked to my doctor after 6 months because I couldn't take it anymore. I have children to take care of. I said that my brain had completely reset. So I went to see someone and asked for help, explaining what I had been through. I was lucky because she didn't judge me at all. She said, I'm going to refer you to a psychologist. At first, she said, someone who will listen and share. That reassured me. And in fact, this psychologist had worked in intensive care. So she said, I know about near death experiences. And the first thing she said to me was, you are not crazy. And that was an incredible relief for me because I was able to talk about what I had been through calmly, I would say. And thanks to that, because ultimately, there's a lot of thanks to that, I was able to work on my own fears because I wasn't yet aware that that was what was causing them. The more I worked on my fears, the more I let in the light. And that's what allowed me to connect with and manage my channeling with serenity. So that was the thing that was, in fact, behind it all. And it took its course because I stayed in difficulty for a good 2 years. If we go back a little bit to the experience, then, first of all, this halo of light, for you, did it have a human form? Was there a shape? Or was it just a halo of light? No, there was no human form. It looked like a big drop of water. That's how I would describe it. It's a halo. There's no human form that could represent a physical body. No, it's really a burst of light. And it was this burst of light that told you, I will guide your life from now on. Yes. And it was the same. There was no mouth, so there was no sound. It was telepathy. It was surprising, actually. We're not used to sharing like that, communicating through telepathy. So I was very surprised, and the message was so clear and so touching. There's that too. There was no idea of dominating me. It was very aligned. I received it. I received it right in my heart, actually. And in the experience, you said, I was like a dot. In a way, I had no body, but you were still yourself, the Ingrid you knew. I would say that I was Ingrid without fear. In that space, I was a light, fearless Ingrid. In fact, I was Ingrid in being. These are states I didn't know before, because I think I was a bit like everyone else, with masks, beliefs, fears. And then it was as if everything had completely dissipated. I was in being, and I felt this love for my whole being. The tunnel. I asked about this tunnel a while ago. We all go through it. What happens inside? Why do we go through it? And then I heard, in that tunnel, you were given all the love you didn't give yourself. And it made so much sense. And indeed, I think I didn't love myself at all. I didn't even have a concept of what it meant to love oneself or even to exist. And then, during that journey, I felt all the love that could be given to me, that maybe I deserved too. And it was very, very, well, it's very powerful. There are no words to describe the intensity of what you go through at that moment. And in the hospital, when you came back into your body, did you recognize your body at first? Did you know it was your body when you came back above your body? Did you know it was yours? It's as if the question didn't even arise. We come back to it, yes. I didn't ask myself, is this mine? Is this not mine? I didn't have that at all. First of all, I didn't have the notion in my mind that I had left. That's the main thing. Did you manage anything in this movement away, the departure, the return? Did you manage anything yourself? No, I didn't decide. Is that what you mean? I didn't decide. It was as if everything had been planned. It was very fluid and very fast. I didn't have that feeling of saying to myself, I'm coming back or I'm not coming back. But on the other hand, I know I was very happy where I was. I didn't want to come back because I was happy. I didn't say to myself, I am going back. And what I understood a little later, when I started talking about it with my psychologist, why did I come back? I saw the father of my children who was there, who had just been told that I might not make it. So I asked myself, well, I came back for him because he's the one I saw. He was the only one there. So he was the one who drew me back. And I understood through working with these frequencies, and especially with the deceased, that it was vibrational. He must have been emitting vibrations of fear, but beyond that, vibrations of love for me at that moment. And that's what made me come back. The deceased say that what brings them to us is the vibrations we emit toward them. You emit vibrations of love. It's as if it attracts them. There's something like that. And from what I saw there, I didn't come back because I saw him, but because his vibrations brought me back. So it wasn't me, in my mind, who decided. It's as if everything happened from heart to heart, or from vibration to vibration. I was caught up in his vibrations. I came back because of what he emitted. And of course, you say tunnel. What makes you say it's a tunnel? Because it's not really. It's like a white spiral that you're in, but like a vortex. That's it. Yes. Plus, we use the word tunnel, but when I see a tunnel today, there's a fairly flat road and a kind of archway above it, but it wasn't like that. I was in a white spiral where everything was going very, very fast. And at the same time, you're enveloped in something you don't know here. Is it a vertical movement? Yes, I went up. So I went up. That's how I picture it. That's how I felt it. But at all times, my consciousness was perhaps not that far away. You see, I must have passed a frequency, been on another plane. But today, when I meditate, I can see that I'm not going anywhere. It's not happening in some kind of height. It's the frequency next door, which I must have reached. So now, obviously, what does death mean to you? I'm not afraid of death anymore. No, in any case, it was a beautiful experience. How can you put joy or love into an experience like that, which cuts you off from life, but from earthly life, when you can see that on the other side, it doesn't stop? So, of course, I don't want to die. I may be afraid of dying, but I'm not afraid of death. Our consciousness is immortal. Well, eternal. It continues. And that's what I find so beautiful. Thank you very much, Ingrid, for sharing your story. Thank you very much.